What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Brandon O'Doy. Follow him on all the socials at Brandon_O'Doy. I'm Brian London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. And Brandon, Miami is 6-0 somehow. We got here despite the last two games giving me 27 heart attacks, 4 strokes, and a bout of high blood pressure every 5 minutes. And we'll do a little mid-season report. But before we do that, we got to tell everyone, one, wherever you are listening to this, subscribe. Wherever you're watching this, subscribe, like, thumbs up, hit the bell, make sure you make a comment. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, just slide into my DMs at Miami Radio Beast. We have a good package waiting for you. Put your business name right there, right there. Have your business name go right there, and everyone will see it, and we'll promote your show. We'll promote the heck out of it. Also, before we get to our mid-season report, can you take me through now? I'm guessing you were one of the many that went to bed with Miami trailing by a lot against California.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say, Beast, that I went to bed, and for good reason. Listen, I got to get up early on Sunday mornings,
for sure.
As you know, I am a minister. So at the end of the day, there was nothing compelling me to make the sacrifice to stay up to 2:30. Now, what I did do, I watched it, God forgive me, before going to worship. And I was even more floored, even knowing the outcome of the game, and still couldn't figure out, trailing by a lot with like no time left, how they managed to win the game. I really still, having seen it, and you were there.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine what. Yeah, you were there and you saw it. I'm watching it knowing you're there, not knowing how it's going to end up. And I'm there watching it because the Virginia Tech game never felt like it was going to go south. It just felt like, Hail Mary, there's no way this guy will catch it, ball game, right? And that ended up being crazy.
It was a little bit closer. Right, yeah.
A nightmare from the word go. Like, after Miami went up 7-0, it just got away from them, and it's just like, yikes.
A few observations from being in the stadium, right? One is I did not expect that much juice from that crowd because my best friend and like my brother basically went to Cal. I've spent a bunch of time on that campus. I've been out there a bunch. I know all his fraternity brothers that he was in the stands with, and they're not the raucous crew, man. Like, they're Chardonnay sipping, like wine coolers. All right, we'll go for a couple minutes and then we'll get out of here. We got to get it. Like, they're not like they're not like an SEC crowd, right? And we're in the press box, and I was at the one end of the press box. And
how nice is it, by the way? Because I'm somewhat of a press box connoisseur.
It's not. It's kind of antiquated, to be honest with you.
Which most traditional stadiums are.
Yeah, so
we're spoiled at Hard Rock.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the only way we're spoiled. We're not spoiled by anything else.
No. I will say this:
spoiled, not the food, and just the
listen. The spread at Cal wasn't amazing. It was like subs and chips and popcorn,
which is fine.
Which is fine. But the good thing is, it was left out like in through pregame. They kept refreshing it. Coffee kept refreshing it. Sodas kept refreshing it. Everything was
here. Here you go.
Yeah. No. At Hard Rock, if there's coffee into halftime, that's a miracle. But I was sitting next to David Lake from Inside the U 24/7, and it was the two of us basically were the only like Miami reporters down that end of the press box. Everyone was, I don't know why we got separated. Everyone else was down the other end. So we were just kind of comparing notes. And the windows are closed in the press box pregame, and we're like, okay, fine, this is cool. And all of a sudden, as kickoff is about to happen, like the windows go up like a car window, like powered going up, and all of a sudden it's just this immense noise. And I was like, wow, like this is real deal. Like, these fans are in this game. There was a bunch of juice. So that was one thing. The atmosphere threw me off because it wasn't very Pac-12-y. It was very like raucous college football. The other thing is I'm watching this game, and Miami's just making a bunch of mistakes, like all the fundamentals, right? Can't tackle, can't catch. Cam throws one of the worst balls I've ever seen. Like, nothing is going right. And I'm like, you know what? This is the game. This is where it happens, where nothing goes your way. And David Lake and I are just like, I mean, like We're watching guys like Wesley and Kiko and like these guys that are like have had really good seasons, just miss things, and we're just like, okay, this is the game. And they get to that third quarter and they start to make their comeback. And you're right. I still do not know what I witnessed. Like, it's still hard for me to comprehend what I witnessed. And it's just like Cam turned into like a Terminator. Like he was just on a mission.
And you know what? And let me say this briefly because you've given a really good, primer. The deal is this. This game will go underappreciated because of what Vanderbilt did to Alabama.
Correct.
Had that not happened,
yes,
people would have been talking about, wow, I can't believe Miami came back from the dead 35-10 down in the fourth quarter and won the game. I can't believe it. But Vanderbilt beat Alabama, so you don't get nearly the amount of, there's talk, and it was a West Coast game, but still, it's kind of like, bro, that's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be up. And I'm right, 35-10 in the fourth, right?
No, 35-10 halfway through the third.
Halfway through the third. That's a death sentence in most cases.
Yeah.
And so I just think that it's one of the more phenomenal comebacks in college football, at least recent history. It's got to be among the top 30 ever. You just don't do that. Like, you're on the road, you're number 8. It's college game day. These guys are acting like they're in the SEC.
Yep.
You probably didn't see college game day. Like, some of those dudes probably didn't sleep.
Yeah,
there's just no way they got a nap.
My buddy and I recorded college game day. We woke up at like 8 a.m. California time, and we just rolled through it. Like, we just watched it, skipped all the commercials, rolled through it. And he was like, I cannot believe this many people showed up to game day at Cal. He's like, I could never imagine this. And those students were lined up at like 11 o'clock at night.
It's never been there. You got to understand, they've never had it there. They've never done it.
It was crazy. It was crazy, man.
At the end of the day, game day was cool, and the guy he misses a field goal, and then they say, okay, well, we'll put $100K on it.
Yeah, they give him another chance.
He drills it, and you see Kane's Twitter like, hey, is this a bad omen? Like, is this a harbinger of many things that are negative to come? And all of that ended up being true. Cal just couldn't close it. And you didn't ask this, but I'll answer it. I think Cal got too cute pulling Fernando Mendoza out of the game.
Yeah, went Wildcat.
They went with this backup quarterback. I get it. They were up by a lot, but they score a field goal instead of a touchdown. And to me, that was probably the decision that kind of tilted this game away from them. Because you're looking for a mistake they made other than Miami just making plays, which – you kind of expect that. Miami been putting up 40 points a game. You know what I mean? And you knew at some point Cam Ward was going to turn it on.
I just think Miami wore them down enough because Cal's defense is bona fide. Miami wore them down enough with what they were able to do on offense that they just couldn't keep up. But
you don't think they got too cute there? Like,
yeah. Oh, no, for sure. Yes, 1,000%. I agree with you. I will also say this. You and I were texting early on in the game. And we've had
I told you forget about this.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and we've had these discussions, and we'll get into this when we talk about the defense. But this Lance Guidry defense does have some room to make up as we head towards the latter half of the season. But those guys came to play, in the fourth quarter. The defense really did come to play in the fourth quarter, and that was nice to see. So we got over that. The team is 6-0. So let's go through this. And the easiest position to break down is quarterback. Brandon, I don't know about you, but I expected big things from Cam Ward, and I thought he was really good. I could not have. This guy's going to break every record at the University of Miami.
He's worth every dime that they are paying him, and the legacy he's going to leave will make it look like he was underpaid for what he's going to do for this university. You've already survived 2 games that you probably should not have won. Okay.
Correct.
Basically 2 coin flips. Well, one was a coin flip and one was really well, no, you have to say both because if that call against the Saints gets ruled as targeting, they lose that game. There's just
correct.
nothing.
1,000%.
So you won 2 coin flips, which is like, it's crazy. You know what I mean? You played as bad as you could possibly play in both games. You played worse in the Cal game. You're on the road. They're juiced up. College game day. You couldn't write the script any better. You got a guy that feels jilted from Miami. I didn't know that. We talked about Mendoza a lot. He's a hotbed kid. I didn't know his dad played with Cristobal on the same team, on the same unit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you probably saw more on the field because literally Miami's the only place where you can't go on the field after games if you're in the press box. But Cristobal embraced Mendoza, after the game. And I thought that was cool because the kid played his heart out. And I told you all off season, I said, Beast, there are 3 games I just don't like. I don't like at USF. I ended up being right for a half. I don't like at Cal. I said Mendoza's going to be super motivated. He's good. He feels left out. He feels like he shouldn't have had to go all the way across the world to play football. Could have played it in his backyard. Had no idea about the ties to Cristobal and his dad. I knew they were all Columbus grads, but I knew he would play his best football, and he did. And the other game I didn't care for was Manny Diaz coming home, super motivated, and feeling, somewhat of the same rejection motivation that, Mendoza probably had. So you've survived 2 of those bombs, 1 more to go. And then I think, at the end of the day, Cam Ward, which is the question, he just played out of his mind for the second. He's so good. You can be so bad and he can still overcome it. He's been horrible for the first half of these last 2 games. And when I say horrible, I mean just made, bad decisions, sort of not been clicking. I mean, horrible for him is like awesome for most people. You know what I mean? And it just because he's so good, so in control. What separates him, what separates him, Beast, is he never gets rattled.
That's it.
He never thinks it's over. That's what makes him so special to me. That's why he's the best player in college football. It's not, you can make an argument for Hunter. You can make an argument for the running back at Boise State. You can make an argument for, Bill Rowe, Ewers. You can make an argument for a lot of these top flight guys, but not one of those guys, not one, can perform at the level with the impact that he does. And I did confirm the story. He did kick all of the coaches out against Virginia Tech. He had a big speech, and they came back and won that game, and they won the game at Cal. He's different.
Yeah, we from the get-go when he got here, you knew he was here to mean business. Like, he didn't just come here to put on the U and have a classy uniform to throw on. He came here to accomplish some goals, and he's doing that. So quarterback, we will give an A+, A++, A+++. And
I'm going to give him an A- because he didn't play very well. I'm just being objective. I mean, I love the guy. I think what he's going to do for Miami is something we've never seen. I think having him after not having a guy in that position for 3 years that really just didn't move the needle is such a breath of fresh air. Like, you literally going to games thinking you can win every single one of them, not praying you can win. And that's such a difference, man. But yeah, you gotta be smarter because they're just tougher games coming, and you gotta just be smarter with the football.
All right, let's go to the wide receivers. Xavier Restrepo, what more can you say? This guy is just money. He's just, you can count on him to be there when you need him. He's going to break all the receiving records at the University of Miami. My question is behind him. How do you feel about the other guys, whether it's Jacoby, who's definitely going through some things after that personal foul, even though he was baited and what have you, but Mario's going to take care of that. Isaiah Horton has come on, obviously. I expected more from Sam Brown, I think. with what he kind of was, what we knew about him coming in. And then, the freshmen really haven't gotten, a big opportunity. But what have you thought about the wide receiving core?
Restrepo's Restrepo. That's pretty much all you can say. He'll own every passing record, reception record at Miami by the time he calls it quits at the end of this season. He's Mr. Dependable. He is an NFL player. He's proven that. I think has to be given the benefit of the doubt. The process is going to eat him alive, but he's exactly what you want in a college football player. And I think he's going to prove himself on the next level, though he will have to, kind of be challenged. I think the number 2 receiver is Isaiah Horton. I think he's the most dependable of that second, receiving, wide receiver 2 right now, just because and in some respects, he's the only other person that supplanted Restrepo in receiving yards and receptions in a game. He had more receiving yards and over 100 yards receiving during the USF victory.
Right.
And that's not small potatoes, because that game was not in hand until later on in the third quarter. But at the end of the day, I think Horton stepped up big. I know he has a lot of the trust of, Cam Ward. They've put in a lot of work, those 3, during the offseason. Brown came later. So, that's kind of why you don't see him in that mix. He's had some drops. He's had some lapses. You'd like to see him step up just a little bit more for the hubbub that was made about him. They were talking about him preseason in the first round. I don't see that. But, there's a lot of time to contribute here. Jacoby George, he's turning into a nice little weapon. He has a lot of ability after the catch. There's some – it's kind of you get what you get with Jacoby. And he goes through a lot off the field that people just don't know about.
Sure.
That young man is pushing through some serious stuff. And I'm not privy to be able to get into, his personal business and what's going on with him as a player and as a student athlete. But listen, if you were to know what's going on with him, you would appreciate what he's doing for the University of Miami. He is laying it on the line every week. And so I'll take a personal penalty foul from him. He's sort of the pulse of the team. I like how, because you see him pregame, he's so not scared. He's kind of Cam Ward of the receivers, He just can't control himself getting the ball. And he just has a no-die attitude, really loves the game. You just know every now and again you're going to get a foul that kind of, puts you. But, credit him, they've never cost Miami a game. It's been some bad situations, some funky situations, but it's never been a game-costing situation. So, and you are looking for somebody to step up. I mean, I want to hear from Ray. I don't know why in year 2 you haven't seen more of him. It looks like Trader's going to be that guy to kind of get in the mix after those 4. And, what's the issue is tight ends are having such a good year that sort of 5th receiver is hard to come by because there aren't a lot of balls to go around. I mean,
right.
you're literally talking about 10 capable guys who can catch the football. And this is like with Lofton getting like peanuts, you know what I mean? And he's sort of the secret weapon. And there are a few plays that Dawson likes to run where you just kind of like not really paying attention to them. And he comes in looking like a fullback. And the next thing you know, he's running a real route and rattling off like 40, 50 yards of reception. So the receivers are there's room for improvement for sure. The drops you've got to eliminate. You want a big play threat. Horton's the closest thing that Miami has to that right now. And I think he's the guy that I would anticipate taking the next step because I don't think we've seen a couple of his touchdowns have been called back. He's got 3 on record. He's probably have 4 that have been taken off the board. And then he's got to make a few catches that, are tough to make, some Restrepo-like catches. And that'll come with time and just playing experience. Got to remember, this is the first year he's really played, in 3 years being at Miami, so this is a lot that he's learning from the first time. So the receiving core, I'm gonna go a solid B+ on those guys. I mean, they've kind of done their job and contributed pretty well, Because in order to have a quarterback, you got to have somebody to catch the ball. And so, they've done a decent job in my view.
I'm going to go solid B, not a B plus, not a B minus, just a B. Really good. Xavier Restrepo, obviously the leader of the pack. And, room for improvement, like you said, but still really solid. The tight ends, led by my boy, Elijah Arroyo. I mean, I don't know what to grade. I'd probably give him a B, but such a huge jump.
I say they're an A. I mean,
the
deal is they were inexistent.
Yeah, well,
they weren't even gradable before this.
Right, that's exactly. They were like an NA, like last year, like not even applicable because they weren't even used. It all started the first game against Florida, the first touchdown of the year scored by Cam McCormick.
Well, and that's why I'm giving them an A because first touchdown, Elijah Arroyo, which you knocked out the park this offseason. He's a dude. I mean, he could probably be the first or second tight end taken. His play against Virginia Tech saves the game.
Yep.
He's had some big plays. That play he stretched out also comes to mind. He's been an awesome weapon. And then the depth of it, they're all getting involved.
Riley,
from Riley to Lofton. And I just kind of like that unit overall. I'm going to go with A minus. I think they've done a good job, especially when they haven't really been around. And so they're blocking well too. I mean, if you really pay attention to the run game, they're doing both of their responsibilities well. So,
well, that's next on the list. Let's get to that run game. This is a little more nuanced here in this breakdown, right? We thought Damian Martinez was going to come in and be the man. He's been good. Mark Fletcher has started to really come on and show
a good game against Cal.
Yeah, and show what he has, and he's getting his burst. And then
he's kind of feeling a little bit better lately.
Yeah,
a little bit more time away from that injury.
Yeah, for sure.
But have a little extra.
And you've gotten some great contributions from AJ Allen, but it's been Jordan Lyle who's really come in and kind of a little bit. I mean, we all know Jordan Lyle was going to be good. It's just to be this good right now. And, listen, his numbers are a little inflated by that 91-yard run, but still really showing.
Don't forget about Chris Johnson, who's making waves.
Chris Johnson
in the return game,
and they developed some things for Chris Johnson as well,
splitting them out wide.
So running backs, what's your thoughts?
B plus.
Ooh, okay.
B-ish.
B-ish. I'd go B-ish.
B-ish. B-ish it is.
B-ish.
Because, I mean, Martinez is not giving me Oregon State. He's just not. I never thought that was real translatable, He's
probably going against better defenses.
He's going against better defenses. They don't really run the ball out there. Our line seems more pass pro oriented. I think that's fair to say. They're not a bad offensive line. They're just they're probably better at.
You could see in the beginning of the Cal game that they came out, hey, like,
they're like, hey, we hear everybody telling us.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to run this. Yeah,
and then they completely abandoned it for the rest of the, for the remainder of the game. So
yeah, I'd go B-ish. Listen, they obviously have a fleet of guys they can use who all bring something different to the table.
That's an amazing word to use.
Yeah,
a fleet. They definitely have that. I'd still like to see Allen get more. If I'm Allen, I'm a little frustrated because he's supposed to be the fourth quarter guy, and I get that, and that's a good role to kind of have. They probably took that away. And this is why you have to stay on schedule with things, because things you want to do, you can't, because, hey, man, we got to keep Damian Martinez in there because he's 6 foot, and we need to drop back and pass every freaking down because we're behind 35-10, So, and then that's kind of unfair to him because he ends up getting left on the bench because you don't want to take a chance. Late in games, you want to be putting people away. And I think that's what Allen does. He comes in when you're tired. You don't want to chase guys. And he's this kind of a smaller guy that you can't really find behind a big offensive line. And next thing you know, 20 yards later, he's, rumping down the sidelines.
Let's go to that offensive line. To see the stat about basically Francis Cece Mauanoa hasn't given up a sack, hasn't given up anything, has just been basically a wall out there, has been amazing. They need Jalen Rivers back. That's quite obvious for sure.
I think him coming back, and we heard the rumor before the Virginia Tech game, and whoever had that information was right, that he had texted that he wasn't going to play. But yeah, him not being around is not good. Bell is getting some great experience, which is going to help us going into next year to feel more confident about him.
Right.
Because Mauanoa will have one more year. So you got your bookends. And, at the end of the day, Bell just got his bell rung a few too many times. And, too many lapses. I got to go B- with the O-line. I know that's kind of harsh. I think it's fair.
I'll be honest, Cooper got beat a couple times in the Cal game. And that I wasn't expecting that. He had his hands full.
I just don't think I've seen any leaning outside of that first quarter of the Cal game. I've not seen this line up and say, you know what, we coming, baby. Outside of the goal line plays between Florida and Virginia Tech and the first quarter of the Cal game, I haven't seen the lean, and you just want to see more of that.
As nerve-wracking as it would be, I would love to see this team have to do we're a half yard from the goal line. We need to pick this up to win the game with a running play. I'd love to see how the offensive line would react in that situation, because I think they would get it done.
No, I like them in short yardage. I like them 5 and in. I've never said that in the last several years about an offensive line at the University of Miami, but I'm B-ing it. I don't know what you're giving it, but I think B- is fair.
B- is fair. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, we'll get to the defense and then a couple other stories we got to get to. You're watching and listening to the Real Ones Canes podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He's Brandon O'Doy. Follow him on all the socials at Brandon_O'Doy. I'm Brian the Beast London. Follow me at Miami Radio B. Subscribe to the pod wherever you're listening. And if you're watching on one of the YouTube channels, make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up, hit the bell, all of that stuff. All right, Brandon, let's get to the other side of the football. Let's start closest to the line with the defensive line. Listen, I think obviously having Ruben Bain back is a good thing as he increases his reps after basically the only, being out since the first series of the Florida game. I think the combination of Simeon Barrow and Tyler Barron have been great additions. Those guys are the sack leaders for this team and really doing a great job inside. I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from Rakeem Mesidor being back, but, he's been through so much. What are your thoughts on this defensive front?
Yeah, I'm going to go B with these guys. I mean, they look like world beaters against Florida. As competition increased, you didn't see the pressure being applied. The quarterbacks did not like the Virginia Tech game at all for this unit. They made enough plays to win games, but I think at times Miami won in spite of their play.
Right.
And that's not why you put so much money into a defensive line. They're going to have to kind of retool, figure out some roles. I like number 10, and in the game he had against Cal, I think that was much needed. And the way he came on, he had been kind of quiet, especially of all the transfers. You really didn't hear much from him. Bain being back is a godsend. He didn't do a lot to me until the fourth quarter, but that ended up being when he was needed the most. There's a lot of capability with this unit, but there's still a lot of plays being left on the field. And I just don't see the harassment of opposing, quarterbacks. And it's going to get tougher. You got some tougher guys to play. This Louisville guy's a big dude. You got to try to get him to the ground. The Georgia Tech guy is a menace. He completely embarrassed Miami last year.
Yep.
And Haynes, you've got to be careful about Malik. Murphy from Duke, you know, and Kyle McCord from Syracuse. So there are really some guys that you've got to make sure that you do not allow to sit back and carve you up or run against you. So, I mean, not as concerned about DJ, but now they're subbing guys in at Florida State. So you don't know who's going to play in that game. But defensive line's got room for improvement. I'm B- in them.
Yeah, I agree, especially because you need them to kind of perform.
Make up for the defensive backs, which we
yeah.
knew was going to be the issue. Let's talk facts. Like, you guys, the investment was on you so that, I mean, because you can't spend money everywhere. It's like when you buy a house, you say, hey, look, we want this really great kitchen, but we're going to have to pick and choose in the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Right.
And unless you're a millionaire and you got money to burn, you can't get everything you want. And I think it was smart. You build it from the trenches. And the money and investment, let's not cut corners here. The money and investment is on the D-line. So the D-line has to like make up for all of, you know, the sins. And so when Mesidor is underperforming and Barron is playing through injuries and you got a Malik that's coming off in 24 who's quick to, you know, rush, but a little bit undersized.
Yeah.
57 is not giving you as much. 11 and 10 kind of play whenever they want. And Bain having injuries and just finally getting back, it kind of can frustrate you because it's like, oh, we thought we were going to see what we saw against Florida every week. We knew Ball State and FAMU were outliers. We're not even considering that. It's like, what can you do when you've got guys that are Power 5 guys, Power 4 guys hitting you back? Like, what are you going to do? And it's just like, it's just been a little bit more of a struggle than I think we anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the lone real bright spot has been OJ Frederic and his development this early and being put in the lineup this early. But otherwise, I mean, I've been let down. Even Beach Powell, who you thought would be kind of the captain of the back end, has had his share of misplays. But I mean,
that's being polite. He's looked terrible the last two games. I can't even say. He's a great young man. He's probably
for sure.
You know, if he were my daughter's age, my daughter's really young, but he would be kind of a guy that you would like. Yeah, I'd love to have him as a son-in-law. But his tackling and coverage the last two games, I hope he's hurt and we just don't know it. I mean, you know, because there's got to be a good excuse because he's looked awful. And you know, with some injuries back there, it's just like, where do you go? But we're talking about the D-line. I want to know what you think about this D-line. You mentioned Mesidor.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I'd give it a B-. I mean, I'm just going down the roster. Like, I'd love to see more from Moten. You know, I definitely need more consistency from Barrow. You know, I think Tyler Barron's been a great addition, but he's been hurt and playing through that. You talked about 24 and Markeith. Malik Bryant, my bad. You know, he's starting to come on a little bit. I need more consistency with that D-line, but it does lead to talking about the defensive backfield and why you need that D-line to play kind of above grade, because you just have got like every game I'm going to just see something and want to put my head through something, because whether it's a Jadaeus Richard is getting beat or it's Jaden or Mish or whoever it is, somebody is having some issues. Daryl Porter, I'm not sure he is kind of played up to where he could be.
I think he's out of position. I don't like him in that spot.
Yeah, true.
I think he's filling in and he's just being a good sport about it. But I like him back on those corners. And you got to think about it. One guy goes down, you know, Brown goes down, and everybody's out of position now. And this is why you cross-train, because it's supposed to be Brown and you just mentioned his name, number 2, Porter on the outside.
Yep.
And Jadaeus Richards in the slot. And now it's kind of like Brown goes down, enter OJ Frederic, which we knew was going to play. We didn't know he's going to be a starter. He's looked better than everybody. You know what I mean? No one else can tackle. No one else can cover. You know, you want to see Seven's done a decent job, except for that one awful play against Florida where he over pursued.
Yep.
Which is Jalen. Then he gets hurt. It's just
I expected more from Deani Hill coming in.
Hill's so thin. It's
Yep.
just like when I saw him during media day, I was like, wow, you've been in college more than 3 or 4 years, like you are. Because if he just doesn't cover well, it's over. Like he's not going to be able to tackle. I mean, he can tackle. He's just a thinner guy. The thing is, for that unit to work, everything's got to be where it needs to be. So because there's no erasers, really.
Am I wrong in giving them a C?
Yeah. I mean, they're putting up these last couple games. They're putting up a lot of points. Somebody got to get a C. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't be giving up 30 plus points a game. Talking about giving them a B and an A, and no, we almost literally lost games because this unit can't get off the field.
Yeah,
so
true.
Yeah, a C is polite.
Now, yeah, I mean, all right, we'll just
let's
leave
do
it
a
there.
C plus since we're having a great show. I don't want any nasty texts.
All right. Let's get to the linebackers, Kiko and Wesley mainly, but Popo also getting some run, some other guys.
Popo and 21. 21's been big. He was big against Cal.
Yeah. But let's start with Kiko and Wesley because they're the two starters there. I think the first few games of the season, those two guys were playing out of their mind. I think they've come back down a little bit.
Kiko came back to life against Virginia Tech.
Yep.
Wesley is probably the reason you win against Cal. Wesley's had a great season. If you want to just talk seasons, Wesley's had a season.
Although
he's had some issues.
This last game he had some lapses, but you're right. He's brought the thunder. Like that boy can hit.
The pick falling out of bounds against I forget who.
Yep.
Florida, everybody played well. So that's everybody gets an A for Florida. FAMU and Ball State don't count. USF, that was kind of a game where I felt like the scheming was not where it needed to be. Second half, it got fixed. Wesley's played good. Kiko's played shaky at times. At times, mostly good. Nobody could tackle against Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Popo's been great.
Yeah, he has.
For the role that he's had coming off the bench, he's been really good. And I don't know, 21 comes in.
Jalen is Alderman, yeah.
Yeah, Alderman comes in so rarely. But I'm gonna go B on that unit. B plusish.
I think I'm gonna give him a B plus because I was so negative on the secondary. I'll go a little bit higher on the linebackers.
B plus.
And real quick, special teams kicking game A, kicking, punting, return game.
We've had a few returns. What are your issues? No turnovers.
No turnovers.
More returns than you've seen.
You know my.
You're not going to get a punt return. So
that's what I want. No, I want a punt
let
return.
That go. You gotta let that go.
No, I want a punt
return. Coaching. I think that's coaching. I think they say if you ain't gonna house it, don't drop the ball, fair catch it. Let's just take it. We got Cam Ward. Don't try to be a hero. And you kind of saw that. Ray looked like he was trying to do something big in Virginia Tech. He slipped to the ground.
Yeah.
And I always wondered to myself, if he had kept his footing, would he have fumbled and been the GOAT?
Maybe.
Like, that's what you don't want.
That's possibly. And during the Cal game for the punts, they had Xavier out there with Ray. So there's that. I mean, and some of that is tactics, but they had two guys back there.
CJ, got to give him his flowers. Chris Johnson Jr., fabulous. He's brought a real return to. And Jordan Lyle is back there with him.
Yeah.
They are both threats to take it to the house.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Here's what we need to get into. Two things before we get out of here. One, on a recruiting level, the Miami Hurricanes got a flip. It is flipping season. Whereas amazing. I think he's a 3-star, but maybe a 4-star wide receiver from West Broward, Josh Moore. Flipped his commitment from Florida to the University of Miami. Tell me about this kid and what this means.
This kid is he's about 6'5". He can run. I went to one of his games last year. He didn't even get a target, and he ran full speed every time he was taking a rep. He has the ability to make plays. He's a quiet guy, not big of a rah-rah talker. He gives me Kobe Young vibes. He's going to be that big jump ball target that Miami has coveted. It's a good compliment to last year's class with a bunch of, 6 foot, 6'1"ish, 5'11" type guys. He gives you that size you need. Horton will be in the program the remainder of this year, maybe next year. If he has, a good second half to the season, he might bounce. So you got to bring in a guy that has size. There aren't a lot of guys like that on this roster. And so you flipped him from Florida, who's kind of having a better season than I think a lot of people gave them credit for, and not to talk about the Gators for much, but losses to Texas A&M and Miami don't look that bad right now. They win tomorrow and they may have something, because Tennessee didn't look that great against Arkansas. And it seems like everybody in the SEC is beatable because literally everybody has been beat.
Right. I mean, if Alabama can lose to Vanderbilt, anything can happen.
Outside of Texas. So you got Alabama losing to, Vanderbilt, Tennessee losing to Arkansas. I mean, there's a lot of shady business that's going on. Kentucky beating Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Literally only Texas hasn't lost, and they could lose tomorrow in their rivalry match.
Yeah, for sure.
So you just don't know. Notre Dame beat Texas A&M. LSU got beat by USC. I could go on and on and on. The mystique of the big bad SEC, it kind of doesn't – it's not ringing true this year. Missouri got beat by Texas A&M. They were ranked high.
So the bottom line is Josh Moore committing to Miami. This is a good thing.
This is great. This is good news. Miami's recruiting class in this wide receiver room was very shallow. It's another young man from another part of Florida. This is a hometown kid. His dad grew up in Overtown. Dad's big. He's big. It's just a good move all around, especially when Malachi Toney, who's committed to you since his freshman year as a junior, flips right after announcing he's reclassifying to 2025. So you lose Malachi Toney, only have one receiver remaining in the class. A few days later, you flip Josh Moore. It's perfect.
And I have a feeling they are not done yet in flipping season or recruiting season and all this stuff. Speaking of that, we're doing away with the NLI. The rules just keep changing. I don't know if this means a lot or not, but from your perspective, knowing these kids, knowing what they go through, the whole process of being recruited, what does this do for me?
This actually puts more power in the hands of the recruit, because now when I don't sign a national letter of intent, I'm not locked in and obligated to attend. You don't actually get a kid locked in until he enrolls, because now what you're going to start seeing signed are these contracts, and you're going to start seeing signed these financial aid agreements. Right. They bind the school to you, not you to the school. So power to the recruit in that move, and just more crazy and chaos, because now it's going to be like, hey, did the kid show up? Did he go to school? It's kind of like the Jaden Rashada thing.
Well, that brings me to, what it sounds like is college baseball, whereas basically up until the point where you walk into a class at school, you're not, you can leave. I mean, that's basically.
And that's where I'm telling you, that is going to get, people are going to be staking out, classrooms at these local universities and colleges, because until a guy actually takes a class, he's not in. Jaden Rashada, I'm telling you, he was on campus in an off-campus hotel at the University of Florida. His NIL deal was not what he wanted it to be. He never went to class. He did not enroll. He didn't sign an NIL because he was there before the letter of intent could be signed.
Right, yeah.
And so the point of it all is like, this is the chaos you're about to start seeing. You thought it was Wild Wild West before.
So wait, with no national letter of intent, does that mean there's no real signing day anymore? Like they're
still going to sign. It's just like when a kid went early to school.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because remember, the NIL used to be in February, and then you had kids showing up in January.
Yeah.
So they're still signing something. People are still going to have signing day, but there's no locking in. And that opens up Pandora's.
It's going to get so shady. I love it. All right, man.
I love chaos.
Yeah. For all my fellow Jews out there, have an easy and meaningful fast as we approach Yom Kippur. And to everyone else, enjoy the weekend of college football. We will be back next week as Miami resumes their season, a bye week this week. Keep it locked here. We'll have it all for you right here on the Real Ones Kings podcast. Peace.